Welcome to the College Football Bros podcast. I am Michael Newman, and I'm joined by the brother who no longer records in his closet.
No, that's me, Ryan Newman.
And by the other brother who has switched to his bedroom.
That's right. That's me, Trey Newman.
All right. On today's episode, we're going to catch up on a bunch of news that we haven't gone through. We'll go through the winners and losers from the NFL draft declarations, the most intriguing transfers of the offseason so far, and the coordinator hires that we are most interested in. Be sure to follow us on social media at CFB Bros and subscribe to our YouTube channel. We've added like 200 subscribers in the last week. We had a mostly Tennessee fan. We had a video about the Tennessee coaching search that had 20,000 views. We're currently at 655 subscribers and have a big favor to ask from the listeners. Our goal is to get to 1,000 subscribers on YouTube because it allows us to monetize there, which would be great for us. It would allow us to kind of justify putting more time into that, putting out more videos, maybe investing in some better cameras. So if you appreciate the content that we do in the audio format, would encourage you to go subscribe there. If everyone listening now subscribed, we would fly past 1,000. We have a lot more audio listeners than we do YouTube viewers. So thanks for considering that. But let's
we're gonna have to be a little bit more mindful of what we say about Tennessee.
I know now, like a third of our subscribers.
Yeah. Josh Heupel's the best hire of all time, guys.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not sure that's what they want to hear, actually.
Yeah, true.
But let's get to that. Let's get to that right now.
Yeah, all right.
Tennessee has hired Josh Heupel. This is a Tennessee pod from now on as their next head coach, of course, bringing him in from UCF. So, Ryan, what do you think?
I mean, all things considered, I think it's a pretty solid hire. Take into consideration all the negative kind of atmosphere, the negative vibes going around the program right now, of course, after firing Pruitt. And then because of the sanctions that might be coming, coaches were reluctant to go there. And then, of course, you got a bunch of kids that are potentially transferring away. You still got some in the portal that haven't maybe made their decision yet, but it looks like they're going to have a lot of kids leave. So it wasn't exactly the sexiest of jobs for coaches to go after. So, but when you look at a guy like Josh Heupel, who's had success at every stop. I mean, I know he's kind of, I think the main thing that is kind of, honestly, that's kind of holding him back, or at least that he doesn't get the notoriety or publicity that he probably deserves, is just because he's kind of walked into some nice situations. He was the offensive coordinator at OU. Then he took over, of course, at UCF when they were, obviously undefeated and had a bunch of talent still there. So he's kind of had those moments, but he still had success is the thing. He's had success at all those moments. So I think he's a solid hire considering all the, the troubles that's going on right now at the program.
Yeah, I think I agree with most of what you said. The fan base, it seems like, at least judging by Twitter and just looking at the Tennessee blog comments, maybe that's not representative, but most people don't seem super happy. There are
I'm not saying I'm happy, but it's solid.
Yeah, that's my thought too. I'm not like, it's hard to judge how good of a coach Josh Heupel is because, like you said, he walked into that team that was already 13-0. But I think the job he has done at UCF though is sort of underrated because I hear a lot of people saying like the team regressed under him, but sort of impossible not to. Like, you're not going to go 13-0 every year. And really the first 2 seasons that he was there, he's only there 3 seasons. I think he dramatically outperformed at least my expectations because the first year they did pretty much repeat what from 12-0. Their only loss was then in the bowl game to LSU, and that was without Mackenzie Milton. So unbelievable season there. And then the next year they went 10-3 with a true freshman quarterback, and the 3 losses were by a combined 7 points. So another great season. They were pretty much as good as they were the year before, just had some bad luck in close games. This year wasn't great. They did have
a lot of opt-outs.
They did have some opt-outs, which is a factor, but still, not a super encouraging season. But that's why he was available to you, I guess.
Yeah, no, it's true.
Yeah, and I wouldn't ridicule the hire. I think the hire's just a fine hire. He resonates more with me than Derek Dooley, Butch Jones, Jeremy Pruitt. Oh boy, a little Freudian slip there. I was speaking as a Vol fan.
Yikes.
Yeah.
But no, I just, is he a home run hire? Probably not, but I think he's solid. And like you said, especially given the circumstances. And if you ask me, like the candidate pool this offseason there wasn't like a ton of just those grand slam hires out there. I mean, a lot of people point to Matt Campbell, Luke Fickell, and those guys are great, but those guys weren't necessarily the best geographic fits for this Tennessee job, at least in my opinion, or they were maybe looking for their own style. Might not have fit exactly Tennessee's culture, but either way, the one thing though that I do like is that it's going to invigorate the offense. Tennessee hasn't finished in the top 11 in scoring offense in the SEC in over 4 years. So he's going to inject some life in there. He's been kind of a quarterback whisperer, renowned as that. So he has a track record there. So, that'll be fun to see his style in Knoxville.
Yeah. So I think we all kind of agree, like, given that those top guys weren't interested, the Campbells, Fickles, Billy Napiers, this seems reasonable. Like, none of us are super pumped about it. It's not like we think Heupel's necessarily a rising star, but given the
and it didn't drag on for so long. I mean, not that is just a huge deciding factor or anything, but last time it just seemed to drag on forever and ever.
And I would like him I'd be more excited with him than I think Kevin Steele. So
yeah. I agree with that. Yeah. So
true.
I know everyone expected the new athletic director or I don't know if everyone expected it. People were hoping that they would make maybe a little bit more of a splash, but easier said than done. All right. So how about UCF? Let's just throw out a couple names of potential hires that they could make, because that's a really good job. Like, they've got a lot of talent on the roster. They've Dylan Gabriel coming back. They should be very good again next year. I've heard Jeff Lebby, who's the current offensive coordinator for Ole Miss, of course, was UCF's offensive coordinator. That would seem to be a hire that makes sense. Any other names you guys thought of?
I mean, are we going to throw out Tom Herman?
Sure.
I would think that would be a very mutually beneficial hiring. I think it would be great for both parties.
Yeah, I mean, back in the AAC, we saw what he did at Houston.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Justin Fuente could also go back to the AAC.
Just kind of leave early. Be like, I'll go.
I mean, he would definitely take it, I would think.
Yeah.
He's looking, they're looking to get rid of him, and he's probably looking to find any other good job he can.
And it's such a great job. It's probably maybe arguably the best job in the AAC, where it's easy to propel yourself, because you're probably going to have success there, and it's easy to propel yourself to an even bigger gig.
Is there a better is there a better G5 job out there than UCF?
Very few, if there are. Yeah,
I don't think one off the top of my head.
I mean, Boise State continues to have success no matter who's there, so that's pretty good. But the talent you can get down at UCF is hard to argue against.
Yep.
So that's why guys, I mean, like Jamie Chadwell, Will Healy, other head coaches at lower G5 schools would potentially be interested.
Yeah, true.
All right. Marshall has also hired a new head coach. They hired Alabama's associate head coach and running backs coach, Charles Huff, to take over for Doc Holliday. What are your thoughts on this move?
Yeah, I mean, even though...
Oh, sorry, Trey.
That's all right. Even though Huff, he's not a household name, but I'd be hopeful as a Marshall fan. Anytime you can get a top recruiter, you've got to take it. He's been rated recently as the best recruiter in the country. Now, of course, it's not overly difficult to recruit to Alabama or Penn State, where he's been in previous stints, but he still knows how to go into living rooms and get top guys who are choosing between elite schools. Obviously he's not going to get those caliber of players, but the skill of recruiting can still translate to the Marshall level. Combine that with his background. He's been with top coaches like James Franklin, PJ Fleck, Nick Saban. I think it's a pretty solid hire.
Yeah. And he's, he's already got a pretty solid, pedigree of running backs with Saquon. He had over at Penn State, and then Najee, of course, here at Alabama. Kylan Hill as well. So he's had a nice little stretch. I think it's good. I mean, we were all kind of weirded by the firing of Doc Holliday in the first place. But I could definitely get behind this. Just bringing in a proven recruiter, guy that's learned from the best. So I mean, I guess they just had enough of Holiday after so long. I'm not sure, but maybe they're just trying to hit a home run here, and they could.
I agree with everything you guys said. Some other news: we made an appearance on another podcast. So why don't you talk about that, Ryan?
Yeah, we were invited to the Benchwarmers Trivia podcast. We were gonna have a little trivia kind of competition between us, kind of us versus them type of deal. So it was a lot of fun. Those guys made it very entertaining. Like the setup of their show, the quiz, the setup of like the trivia format was real fun. And the questions were great. So it was a really entertaining thing. I know we all had fun. I would think you guys would have fun listening to it. So you do yourself a favor, subscribe to that podcast, the Benchwarmers Trivia podcast. One of our listeners, Marcus, who's been a long-time listener, great guy. It was fun to be able to talk with him. He was one that kind of invited us because it's his podcast that he's on. So it worked out well, and we'll probably be back on soon. And it'll be coming out anytime shortly. I don't think it's come out yet, but we did it last week, I think, so it should be coming out anytime. But make sure you go subscribe and give that one a listen.
Yep, and thank you for inviting us onto their show again. That's great.
Yeah.
We would love
to have us back
if they'll have us. Yeah, thanks. Shout out to Marcus again. We also have a new sponsor right now. So Trey, why don't you tell listeners about that?
Well, I mean, Valentine's Day right around the corner. You can use myfrontpagestory.com. Be a great gift for your significant other, or even your mom, anyone out there that you want to celebrate Valentine's Day with, especially during this pandemic. It's a great gift because you can talk to a professional writer about a loved one for about 10 to 15 minutes. And the writer will write a story for you in the form of, it'll look like literally a front page of a newspaper. And, you hear someone say, I want to do something special for you, or so I had this story written about you. Like, you don't hear that much. And it can be emotional for them, especially around the Valentine's Day. If it's with your significant other, they can even appreciate it even more. So bottom line, the loved one will love it. They might even cry happy tears. You'll win. So if you use the promo code BROS15 at myfrontpagestory.com, you'll get 15% off. That's BROS15, myfrontpagestory.com.
Awesome. Okay, let's get to some football here. The topic for the episode, we'll start with draft declarations, and we're going to go through the winners and losers. So Ryan, who's your first winner?
My first winner is going to be the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Actually, here I'm going
home.
Homer.
We won something.
Yeah, we won.
That's all we got.
Not horrible. Well, maybe. No, but for real though, Nebraska, especially their defense, they just pretty much had everybody decide to come back. A lot of super seniors will be back here. So, Jojo Doman was obviously kind of the first one that came out and said it, and he's coming back. And he was a big piece. He's a great linebacker, kind of really versatile. Cam Taylor-Britt in the corner, he could have gone pro. He decided to come back, their best secondary player. Both safeties are coming back. They were seniors. They could have left a linebacker, another defensive lineman. So it was just all over on that defense. So they're going to be very experienced. They only lose like two guys on the defense now. One was doing it due to an injury. So it was really just one guy that decided to move on. The offense, they didn't have anybody really decide to come back, but not sure we really want them to.
Oh yeah, sure.
Except for Wandale, but he transferred. He didn't decide to.
Yeah, it's rough.
Go there. That hurt.
All right, my first winner is Iowa State. Kind of an obvious one. Breece Hall is back because he had to be. He was only a sophomore. But Brock Purdy decided to come back. That's huge. Their star tight end, Charlie Kohler, spurned the
NFL.
That
was a big one in my eyes.
Yeah, for sure. And then two of their best players on defense, Mike Rose at linebacker, Greg Eisworth at safety. Both decided to return. So in total, that's 19 starters back. The only loss, really big loss, was Jaquan Bailey on the defensive line, but he was already a fifth-year senior, had a great season. So, you kind of expected him to go pro.
Yep. I'll
Top
go to
10.
Yeah, they could be. I'll go to another state school, Ohio State. Of course, Justin Fields left, but obviously no surprise. And Sean Wade and Wyatt Davis did as well. Again, no surprise, highly graded. But on the positive side, they got Thayer Munford came back. He's going to anchor that offensive line. Chris Olave was the surprise, the wide receiver. He's going to big play Olave, man. He's going to be back, one of the best receivers in the country next year. Jimmy Ruckert, a tight end. He was a big target that Fields really developed a good relationship with towards the end of the year. He'll be back. Defensive end, Tyreek Smith and their tackle Haskell Garrett stayed, so that defensive line could be strong or even stronger than it was this past year. So they ended up being a winner, even though you lose that Justin Fields.
Yeah, they're always going to lose, several guys, but there was a few surprises there that returned.
Yep. All right, let's go with my second one here. My second one is Georgia. It wasn't perfect by any means. Kind of almost like Ohio State deal. They're going to lose some people, like Tyson Campbell and Richard LeCount. There's guys, but the guys that they got coming back, JT Daniels, that one was a question for sure. JT Daniels could have gone after his pretty strong finish to the season. And they obviously got a lot better when he was in there. The running backs, Zamir White, James Cook are back. Jamari Saylor, he's the tackle. That's a huge one. And then to me, the biggest one, literally and figuratively, well, literally and I guess, Jordan Davis. Yeah, that sounds right. Jordan Davis, the big nose tackle on defense. He was, again, he's not a guy that puts up a bunch of stats, but his presence is vastly missed when he's not on the field. You can tell they are so stout up against that run when he's in there. So that was a massive one.
All right, my next winner, I guess the rich are staying rich because Clemson is a winner for me. And specifically Clemson's defense is the winner. They're returning all 11 starters, which is crazy. Of course, they were very young, but also Nolan Smith, their second team All-American safety, decided to return. James Skalski, their leader at linebackers, back. And
Turner, right?
Did I say Nolan Smith?
Yeah, the basketball player.
I've been like calling him that. Oh my gosh. Yeah. Anyway.
I was like thinking Duke basketball all of a sudden.
Yeah. No. Okay. Thanks for that correction. But that's not the first time I've done that.
He's pulling a Greg Paulus, just
one.
Yeah. And then Darian Kendrick was I think the biggest surprise at corner returning. So I mean their defense was already good. I know it wasn't like their defense of a few years ago, but it was still good. And now everyone's back.
This next year could be.
Oh yeah, of course. Brzee and Murphy back up front, the freshmen, they're going to be insane.
Venables is licking his chops. I'm going to go to the Big Ten again with Indiana. They're not necessarily jumping for joy as a winner, but they're still pretty happy. Receiver Ty Freifrogel decided to come back. He's going to take all the passes that Whop Phillier was getting. They got, and the defensive side, which is kind of more Tom Allen's calling card, Marcelino Ball, Raheem Lane at corner come back. And then along the line, Mike Zimba returns. He disrupts a lot of opposing offenses. Michael Penix should be healthy. Allen's going to be loaded with arguably the highest expectations Indiana's ever had, at least in our lifetime.
Yeah, maybe so.
All right, let's move on to the losers. Who's your first loser, Ryan?
I would say Ryan.
Yeah. It's got to do it every year.
Yep.
All right. My first one is Auburn here. They lose quite a bit, especially they lose their entire receiving core, really. Eli Stove, Seth Williams, Anthony Schwartz, 3 good players. They're all gone. They lose safety Jamie and Sherwood, and their linebacker KJ Britt. So just not a whole lot of positives after the left firing of Gus Malzahn.
Okay. My first loser is Stanford. You can kind of handle losing players, like we said, when you're Ohio State or even Alabama, they lost a lot, but they'll reload like always. But Sanford finished 59th in SP Plus. I know they had a 4-2 record, so pretty good record, but they won, a lot of close games. I think all 4 were very close. So really they weren't all that great this year, and yet they lose Paulson Adebo at corner and Walker Little at tackle. Now they didn't play this year, so they had already opted out. But they also lose Simi Fehoko, their wide receiver. I didn't see that one coming, at least before the season. And then the biggest loss is quarterback. That's always the biggest loss. Davis Mills, who just became the starter midway through 2019, really didn't play a ton for you.
2020. Well,
No,
no,
2019.
yeah, he finished last year. That's right.
Yeah, for Costello, taking over when Costello got hurt. But he didn't play that much, but he's gone.
Yeah, that's it's gonna be tough for David Shaw. I'm gonna stay in the Pac-12. Michael, your boys, the Trojans. They're doing a very, very good job in the transfer portal right now. So hopefully they can blend all that talent together. But the Trojans have the most early departures of any team in the country. They lose Elijah Griffin at corner, Talanoa Hufanga at safety linebacker position, was one of my favorite players this year. He left. Amon-Ra St. Brown. You got along the D line. You got Jay Tufalele. Or actually, it's just Tufele.
Yep.
Yeah. And then Elijah Vera Tucker, he leaves their top offensive lineman, but that's really not a surprise. Tyler Vaughns was a senior. He could have come back, but didn't. But on the wide receiver position, USC's they've become wide receiver U. They still got Brew McCoy, Drake London back, so I'm not overly concerned there. But there was a decent exodus, so those transfers better pan out.
Yeah, and you didn't even mention on the D line Marlon Tuipulotu, who broke out this year, and he's gone. So just not good. We already weren't really that good this year. I mean, we were fine. We were borderline top 15, top 20 type team, but then you lose all those guys. It's
one of your running backs.
I mean, we'll still have. Sorry,
one of your running backs transferred to Nebraska, Marquise Stepp.
Well,
It's a guy.
We're distributing talent between my two teams. I can live with that. I can lend. USC has the luxury to lend a running back to Nebraska.
Yeah, there we go. We need it. All right, let's move on to my second loser here. Northwestern. They had a very, very good defense, of course, led by some seniors in Patty Fisher and Blake Gallagher. And those guys, I guess, were just ready to turn the page here. They had played practically all 4 years. They were just played a ton of football. Kind of didn't really make much sense for them to come back for a 5th year. I mean, it would have been great if they did for them. But those guys are gone. Their lineman, Ernest Brown, is gone. Greg Newsome, the corner, really, really good corner. J.R. Pace, he's also gone. So Peyton Ramsey, quarterback, gone. They got they lose quite a bit. And of course, Rashawn Slater, their first round tackle, is also gone, but he didn't play this year. He sat out. So, Northwestern, guys like Patty Fisher, Blake Gallagher, they've been around for so long. They usually replace pretty well there, kind of have a nice system, but those guys were 4-year dudes and played a ton, and those guys played some huge moments. So I think they'll feel it a little bit.
All right. My next loser is, I wouldn't call the team as a whole a loser. I don't feel that strongly about it, but just kind of felt like it was worth bringing up, is North Carolina, and just, I guess, more specifically Sam Howell being a loser because he lost a lot of weapons. So they had 2 1,000-yard running backs this year, Michael Carter and Javonte Williams. Carter's a senior. He's opting to leave. Javonte Williams declared early as a junior. And then they had a 1,000-yard receiver, De'Ami Brown. He's leaving early. Their second leading receiver, Daz Newsome, kind of had a down year compared to what you'd thought. So you thought maybe he'll come back. Nope, he's gone. So between those guys, that's their top 2 rushers and 4 of the top 5 leaders in receiving yards. So big losses there. I mean, they're a very young team. They're going to have a lot of returning starters elsewhere. So they'll still be
got
very
some good receivers coming up too.
They do. Yeah. So that's why maybe loser is harsh.
Well, no, but I mean, but if they had some
of those guys.
Yeah, exactly. If half those guys came back, they would be getting even more hype going into next year.
Yeah.
But all right. So with Mac Brown's old job, I'm going to go to Texas. Sarkisian, he's inheriting some talent, but the Longhorns were possibly the hardest hit in the Big 12. Ellinger, he could have come back. Not terribly surprising, though, that he didn't. But losing left tackle Sam Cosmi, defensive back Caden Stearns, and Chris Brown. They lost the big-time pass rusher, Joseph Asai. Wide receiver Brennan Eagles was kind of a surprise decision that he left. Might have thrived, actually, with Sark in that offense. But so Texas was bit a little hard.
Okay. There you have it. Let's move on to transfers. So obviously the transfer portal has been very active, seemingly more and more every year. How about among those who have already chosen their destination, Trey? Who are you looking at?
So I kind of took a little duo because they went to Utah, and it was Charlie Brewer and TJ Pledger. Charlie Brewer was kind of surprising going from Baylor to the Utes. I mean, he struggled a bit this year, as we all saw, but a year ago, he did very well with Matt Rule and Baylor, as we all saw. He's going to have to battle a couple other transfers, Cam Rising, and then some new recruits that they have, so a dual threat, Jaquindon Jackson. But his experience will at least make him be the favorite going into camp. And then Oklahoma's running back TJ Pledger. We saw what Trey Sermon did when he transferred from OU. Not saying he's the reincarnation of that, but the Utes, when they lost tragically Ty Jordan, Pledger is a good get for them.
So weird to see Utah just taking so many transfers now. Like all of these QBs too. It's like,
and 2 of them from Texas, right? Yeah.
It's
weird.
Just like, what's going on? They don't remember that ever from Utah before, but.
All right. Well, I've got another quarterback here going from Virginia Tech to Tennessee, Hendon Hooker. I'm intrigued by him. He was very efficient overall in Justin Fuente's offense. 37 total touchdowns in his career there, 7 interceptions, 9.3 yards per pass attempt. He's a really good runner. So if he's used correctly, he can be, lead a very good offense. He committed, of course, before Pruitt got fired. So we'll see if Josh Heupel, I mean, I'm sure he's not, of course, going to be handed the job. He'll have to compete for sure. They've got kind of a logjam there at quarterback, but I would be the favorite right now. And I think Heupel will be able to use him. He used Mackenzie Milton's legs, of course, a couple of years ago. Of course, Hendon Hooker not as good of a passer as Milton, but we'll see.
No. Yeah, no, well, it's definitely an intriguing one for sure. All right, I'm going to go to mine here. My first one is Mackenzie Milton. Of course, yes. There you go. He's going from Central Florida to Florida State, where he'll have some competition, no doubt about it. Chuba Purdy's still there. Jordan Travis had some moments last year. Not that great, but neither of them. So if he's healthy and is, really that's just the question. If he's healthy, I would think he'd be the guy just because of what a great player he's proven to be. He's very accurate, good decision maker. They need something like that. So I hope he's healthy. We all want to see him healthy.
Oh, man, it'd be so awesome.
So hopefully he comes back, leads FSU to a bounce back year. Just another great story I mean, he'd be comeback player of the year. He'd be just, I mean, he'd get so much attention and deservedly so after what he went through.
Yeah, Alex Smith 2.0. But
yeah.
Well, I would go to an ACC rival of FSU. Miami is getting Charleston Rambo, the Oklahoma receiver. Derek King, he needs a threat on the outside, and he's getting one from OU. Rambo had a big year a year ago with Jalen Hurts. He had 43 receptions. But then this year, Mims ended up taking away some of his targets and didn't have as big of a season, but no reason he couldn't thrive in Lashley's offense with Derek King.
All right. I've got 2 final transfers here for me. They're both quarterbacks. So, and they're kind of similar to the guys that they're replacing. So the first is at Memphis. Of course, they had Brady White from Arizona State. He was a transfer from ASU the past few years. Now they're getting an Arizona transfer, Grant Cannell, who, of course, Arizona as a team sucked, but the last couple of years overall, his stats were pretty good.
Not Cannell's fault.
Yeah, exactly. Not his fault. I would expect if he's the starter him to thrive there. And then at SMU, they had Shane Bichelle, transfer from Texas for the past few years. Now they're getting a transfer from Texas's rival, Oklahoma, Tanner Mordecai, who was former 4-star recruit. I mean, he'd been in the quarterback competition the last couple of years and just, of course, got beat out by some really good players. So
played a little this year.
What's that?
Played a little this year.
He did. Yeah, he's played and his stats are good. Of course, it's Lincoln Riley's offense, so they're always going to be good. But you could say the same thing about Sonny Dykes. So I'm sure he'll do very well.
Yep. I would be surprised if he didn't. All right, my last one here is Jack Cohn. He's going from Wisconsin to Notre Dame. And I think this makes a lot of sense. I think he can be somewhat similar to, if he could obviously match Ian Book, that'd be fantastic. He doesn't quite have the legs that Ian Book has, but he is a good, solid game manager, makes good decisions with the ball. I would also think if he's, I would assume he's kind of has the leg up as far as getting the job. He's transferred there for a reason. Ian Book's gone. Phil Jerkovich is not the guy in waiting. He's over at BC now, so this makes sense for Cone and Notre Dame. I think it'd be a good fit.
Okay, how about among guys that are still in the portal and haven't decided? I'll throw out one. It's LSU tight end Eric Gilbert. He was a 5-star just last year, came in, had a great true freshman 2020, 35 catches in just 8 games. So there's still a chance he could return to LSU. That door is definitely open. They would love to have him back. So Coach O's got a recruiting job to do there, because that'd be a huge loss.
That absolutely would. I'm going to go with Alan Bowman. He was Texas Tech's quarterback. Highly productive, threw for over 5,000 yards, 33 touchdowns. When he's healthy, he is an absolute force. He's actually going to be immediately eligible, even if they don't pass that transfer waiver here. But he's got 3 years of eligibility remaining, technically, so you could see a lot more yards out of Bowman's arm.
Yep, for sure. Mine is going to be Henry Toto from the linebacker from Tennessee. He was obviously did very, very well there from Tennessee right from the get-go, even as a freshman. He's a kind of a speedy linebacker, made a lot of good plays. This year probably maybe didn't take quite the jump maybe that some people thought, but I think you could say that about just the whole team in general. So not sure if I could really put that on him. So whoever's gonna get him, I think will get a really good player. He's got a ton of ability. So that's one that I'm very intrigued to see where he ends up. He's a good player.
All right. Yeah, he was a big recruit. Let's get to the coordinator hires. We've covered every new head coaching hire. It seems like the last one remaining will be UCF, unless that starts some more dominoes, but haven't discussed the coordinators much. So Ryan, what's one of your interesting hires?
Yeah, I'm going to start us off with Tim DeRuyter, the defensive coordinator from Cal, moving on to the same position at Oregon. And we know what Cal has done the last couple of years. DeRuyter has done a fantastic job. I know Justin Wilcox is obviously a defensive guy himself, but DeRuyter should get a lot of credit for that. Guys like Evan Weaver, great secondary, just a lot of great plays that they've had. So I think that's a pretty darn good hire. If I'm Oregon, I think he'll do a good job.
Yeah, Cristobal has done a really good job, it seems like, hiring coordinators. Now you got Moorhead and DeRuyter. Like that's great. Obviously, Avalos was a great hire. He went on to become a head coach at Boise. Before that, they had the defensive coordinator they had from
Jim Leavitt.
Jim Leavitt. Yeah, there you go. Thanks for helping me out there.
You got it.
Just wanted to watch him struggle for a little bit and then bail him out at the last second. I'll go Mike Yurcich going to Penn State. He was the offensive coordinator most recently at Texas, and then Ohio State before that, and then most notably for a sustained run at Oklahoma State. Kirk Shiraka didn't quite pan out as they hoped in Happy Valley, but Yurcich, I mean, he's been successful everywhere. I would think he would get the most out of the Nittany Lion offense in the coming years.
Yeah, they have. Number one for me, I think my favorite coordinator hire of the offseason has been Steve Sarkisian hiring Washington defensive coordinator Pete Kwiatkowski to join his staff at Texas. He'll be the co-defense coordinator. I think nationally, he's one of the more underrated coaches in the country. Did a great job at Boise under Chris Peterson, of course, followed him to UW. They've consistently had one of the best defenses in the country. He's been very unselfish, kind of stepping aside and letting Jimmy Lake kind of climb the rungs ahead of him, but he's done a great job. They always have a good defense, and I know we talked about the Texas hire, and I think Trey, you and I were like, sure, it's fine, but maybe weren't quite as excited as Ryan. The staff that he has put around himself right now, especially with Kwiatkowski, is getting me. I would be pretty excited if I was a Texas fan.
Oh yeah,
for sure. All right, moving on to my second one here. Bill O'Brien going to Alabama as the new offensive coordinator / quarterbacks coach. Obviously the Houston Texans stint didn't finish very well. It seemed like
Bill O'Brien, the GM, maybe they're not hiring him at least.
True. Yeah. Well, they didn't really like him as a coach either. Didn't like him personally. It seemed like the players had a little bit of a scuffle, whatever. Anywho, he's going to Alabama, so he's going to get things straightened out. Okay, that's what these coaches do. Saban just takes whoever he wants, and they'll turn him into gold. So I'm sure in a few years we'll see Bill O'Brien, maybe at some other big type program. It's just what happens.
For sure. And he did obviously a good job at Penn State. So
yeah,
he goes and crushes it at Alabama. He'll be very desirable.
Oh yeah, he did. Yeah, he did. All right, I'm gonna go with LSU. They hired Durante Jones as their new defensive coordinator, and I don't know about this one. I'm not good at judging hires. I don't think anyone really is, but this is going to be the third defensive coordinator in 3 years for LSU. Bo Pelini obviously didn't quite work out, but it wasn't entirely. It
not quite.
I'm also not gonna throw it all on Bo. Like, it wasn't entirely his fault. They were transitioning to a new scheme, virtually no offseason. They had lost pretty much the entire team from the year before, like we've talked about a lot. But yes, statistically, it was awful. But I don't know how many other guys would have done too much. Now they have to change systems again. Jones is the reason he's interesting is because he was kind of off the radar. He's been the Vikings assistant. He was an assistant with a couple more NFL teams, Wisconsin, Hawaii, UCLA in years past, but he hasn't been a coordinator in over 10 years, and that was at Bowie State, which is a D2 school. So I don't really know what to think about this one.
Yeah, it seems like he got hired because he coached under Aranda at Wisconsin, so
yeah,
maybe wanted to get some of that glory back.
Yep.
All right, last one here is Notre Dame hiring. Well, so they lost Clark Lee, of course, to Vanderbilt as their defensive coordinator to go become the head coach at Vandy. But I think they're getting an upgrade here. They hired Cincinnati defensive coordinator Marcus Freeman, who arguably did the best job of any coordinator in the country last year, over the last couple of years, building that Cincinnati defense. So, and he chose. It seemed like he chose Notre Dame over LSU. So that's a pretty big get.
Yeah, that was a huge one. That's a huge get for Notre Dame, no doubt about it.
And he's another guy that will be does a good job at Notre Dame. He'll quickly get a head coaching job.
Yeah, I'd be surprised if he wasn't a head coach in a couple of years.
Yeah. All right, there you have it. That was like information packed episode. I feel like there was not a lot of dilly dallying. We got you caught up. I'm sure we missed some coordinator hires, some other transfers and stuff. Let us know on social media at CFB Bros. Some other ones that you were interested in. But that'll do it for us. So again, don't forget to subscribe on YouTube. Just go to youtube.com/collegefootballbros. I'll put a link also in the description for this episode. We'd really appreciate that. And we will be back this week. We're going to do 2 episodes this week. We're going to have some YouTube content as well. We'll do a longer discussion on Tennessee's hire of Heupel. So another reason to subscribe there. And we'll see you in a couple days.
You've been watching the College Football Bros. Be sure to subscribe here on YouTube and in your podcast app for college football content all year round. For bonus episodes and access to our Discord chat, join our Patreon at patreon.com/collegefootballbros. Thanks for watching.